every day. It's a relief, right? You're so worried about knowing everything or telling people that you know everything that you need to take the pressure off, because I'm still learning every day. And there comes a point in time and a balance when it's okay, that you accept that. But the sooner you accept that, um, the more fun it is, because now it's just about learning. It's not about just closing the deal or getting the job or getting that grade or things like that. It really is about enjoying the process.
Welcome to the Beef Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandy Buzzard, and it's my pleasure to bring you the trending issues and topics with the best and brightest minds of the beef industry. Today, I am so excited to welcome Dr. Dan Thomson to talk with us. Dr. Thomson is a third-generation bovine veterinarian from Clearfield, Iowa. He earned his master's from South Dakota State, his PhD from Texas Tech, and his DVM from Iowa State. Dr. Thomson has had a long and exciting career in beef cattle health and production, ranging from feedlot veterinarian to Kansas State University to Iowa State University to cactus feeders and so much in between. Dr. Thomson is an internationally recognized leader in animal welfare and beef cattle production and has had a tremendous impact on students, stakeholders, and the beef industry through his devotion to beef cattle health, stewardship, education, and supply chain issues. I am so excited to have him here today with us on the show. Welcome, Dr. Thomson.
Hey, thanks, Brandy, for having me. This is great to be here, and just so excited to spend time with you.
Well, it has been a long time since we have talked and caught up. I'm really excited to see you and to talk to you. I will admit, though, it's kind of odd to call you Dr. Thomson because I've called you Dr. Dan the entirety that I have known you. So, but that's fun for me. Dr. Thomson has really done so much for me as a beef industry specialist, but also as a student. And like I said, I'm just so excited to have him here with us today. Just to jump right in and get started, you have had a really long career, lots of places, lots of experiences. Can you just tell us how you got started in the beef industry and with your veterinarian experience, how you got involved, your career path so far, and then, what you're doing these days?
Brandy, thanks for asking. It has been a great career. It's been because of great people that have taken chances on me or allowed me into their network. But, I was raised in Southwest Iowa. My granddad started our vet clinic in 1938. My dad joined it in 67. We were small town mixed animal practitioners back before swine integration, and nobody had working facilities. So we drug chutes around Southwest Iowa to preg cows and do pre-breeding workups before turnout in the summer. So that's my childhood was spent on the front end of a manual chute working cattle for everybody all summer. And then, I went to Iowa State and I went to work for the beef nutrition farm while I was in class. And I learned I'd never been around cattle feed. Southwest Iowa is pretty much cow-calf. And I fell in love with the feedlot system here at Iowa State. And I fed on the weekends and rode pens and just tried to learn everything I could and decided that was going to be my career path because of my experiences here. And from there, just knowing that's what I wanted to do, I set out to network with people. I set out to learn as much as I possibly could every minute about what was going on. And so as went to South Dakota State and Texas Tech to follow cattle feeding with some of the best ruminant nutritionists, and then wound up settling in West Texas in a practice. And so little things that you do or little impacts that you think you have, you're sitting there as a faculty member or someone that owns a business, or you accept that student on an internship, you never know what fire it's going to ignite. And from there, basically my whole career has been about serving others in the beef industry. And whether it's students or whether it's stakeholders and producers and veterinarians, it's been about, okay, well, what's the problem? All right, let's figure out how to fix it. And let's find some solutions, or let's find the people that can bring the solutions. And so that's what I've done for 20 some years, whether it's in veterinary practice for my clients or whether it's in academia for our students, or if it's just in the community, with our schools. It's all interrelated, and it's being engaged, it's listening, and following through.
Yeah, you just have had such a long career with so many different experiences. Um, and you mentioned you were at Iowa State for your undergraduate degree and your DVM. How has veterinary medicine changed? So, take yourself back to when you were getting your DVM and then comparison today. And, you teach veterinary medicine, so you're very in tune with what's happening. How does it differ today from when you were earning your degrees?
Yeah, I want to say the biggest difference is it's gotten so specialized, and it's we don't have the environment anymore of hey, you're going to make mistakes, but you fail forward, and I think that's something that we miss. And the other one is making sure that the students have the techniques in their hands, making sure that they have the practical experience. We were doing surgeries and doing things in veterinary school before we got out, rather than now it's kind of playing it safe, and we only do some of the spay neuters for surgeries, and then you get out and you do your first C-section on a cow by the family holding the flashlight, and so it's I think that's what remember the technical skills, getting those in the hands, are something that's changed. And the other thing that has to change is, the heroes in our profession are the people in the trenches and the veterinarians out serving their communities. Um, People in universities are not smarter than people out in practice. They just have more time, and they have a different job and a different role, and they have more help, and they have better tools and better technologies and things like that to help. And so while we all have a role, the thing that when I went through, the private practitioner, the mixed animal practitioner was the North Star, or the the Michael Jordan, or whatever, and making sure that remains in our profession is vitally important.
Well, it's really interesting. You're talking about specialties, and of course, for the listeners on here, I don't have a veterinary degree, so I'm not familiar with. And Dr. Dan knows that, but I'm not familiar with those things. So I did not really know that change, has happened. That there's not as much of that like technical hands-on. But speaking as someone who sadly has had to have one of our cows have a C-section, I want that experience to. I do not want the first experience with that to be at my ranch in the dark. So that's definitely interesting that you bring that up. You're talking about specialties, and I know that this isn't a specialty. I don't believe it is in vet school, particularly this topic, but because all of vet school is animal welfare. But something that you have been very involved in across the entire beef industry and the livestock industry in general is leading the charge of like animal welfare education, advocacy, things of that nature. And it's one of the pillars another pillar that you are very well known for. You lead a lot of conversations in that area through your work with McDonald's, the YUM Animal Welfare Council. For those listeners who are not familiar with YUM, that is the corporation that is in charge of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell and A&W. I know that because I'm a former Pizza Hut employee. And then also as the chair of the Animal Welfare Committee with NCBA. So hearkening back to the past again, it seems like right now a lot of animal welfare conversations, they don't seem to be as heightened. HSUS and PETA do not seem to be as like attacking us as much, maybe is the word I'm using. But how have those discussions changed over time from when you first got started to now? Like what maybe is the focus now of those conversations?
Yeah, I got into animal welfare just because it's what we do every day. And, I did my degrees in ruminant nutrition and production and in veterinary medicine. And so it was a natural fold for me to combine animal health and well-being. And we did a survey at McDonald's years ago of consumers and asked them what animal welfare was. And we got so many different answers. Nobody can agree on it. But the two things that came out of that survey were a a a safe food product comes from a healthy animal, and a healthy animal is one that had good animal welfare. And so health became core to the animal welfare discussion. And, the activists, they came out really attacking in when we first started out. I mean, they would even follow me to presentations I would give. I had them show up, take pictures of me in the parking lot at K-State's vet school one day. And oh yeah, it was something else. And my thing is just being brutally honest. All right. We have nothing to hide. We're transparent. But yet when we're transparent, we also show the lies and the deceit of people trying to abolish animal agriculture, right? And so we just kind of expose those discussions to support and to defend the beef industry or the swine industry, whatever. And what I've seen change is, the undercover videos still happen, um, but those have always been something that we've coached on. We've talked to people. Um, we can't keep people from doing. I keep saying that animal rights activists use animal abuse cases to drive animal welfare legislation. And animal rights believe that animals have the same right as humans. And that's a moral belief, right? It's not scientific. I can't find a stack of papers. Religion, politics, animal rights, whatever. But if you think animals have the same rights as humans, you won't eat them. Okay, so there's a very small subset of people in our society. Animal abuse is animal cruelty. None of us stand for that. And animal welfare is what we do. It's doing the chores. It's taking care of the animals that take care of us through vaccination, shelter, food, nutrition, things to that nature. So I can apply science to that and improve animal welfare. So what I've seen over the last few years is that the animal rightists were driven towards political action campaigns, legislation, right? And so there were all these ballot initiatives, and we've seen a few since then, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And so applying pressure to a retail outlet can get you a snap decision. It takes less time, and then they masquerade as the consumer, right? 1.7% of Americans farm and ranch, and that means 98% of Americans don't. And so they come in and say, we're not farmers and ranchers. We represent the consumer, which is wrong because they're vegetarian.
Right.
But
it's a small segment of the
consumers. And so they masquerade as this, as something they're not. And so then they buy shares in these companies, and they try to get with the boards of these companies and the execs in these companies. And they really use a lot of pressure on retail. And we have to remember this, all right? Restaurants will make decisions that grocers can't. Restaurants feed the rich. They don't take SNAP coupons or food stamps, and they're there for people who can afford to have someone else plan the meal, cook the meal, and do the dishes. So they can raise prices. They can change what they ask for, and because they're selling to people who they're affluent. You go to the grocery store, that's where the SNAP coupons feed the people that can't feed themselves. And so when we start to make SNAP decisions, the grocers won't follow what some of the restaurants will. And so helping restaurants understand some of the things that they're doing, that when we look at poverty in this country, and this really gets down to the reason why I got involved in it, is if you increase the price of food, which is the number one variable for determining poverty in the United States, without increasing incomes, you will increase poverty in our country. And so what we have to do is we have to educate, we have to communicate. And really somebody said, well, what do you do? And it's okay. I go to the restaurants and I say, hey, have you seen, don't just fall for what the NGO is asking you to do, because number one, probably not true. and then listen to the restaurant groups and come back to our industry and say, hey, if we do this, it'll make it easier on our retail partners. And so I guess what I've seen the biggest change is going from legislative initiatives to attacking individual corporations to get snap decisions made in their supply chain. And that's where we have to apply the education.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying there. And it wasn't like that change from legislation, ballot initiatives. I well remember the ballot initiative in Ohio when they were trying to establish that, I can't remember what it was called, but, that ballot initiative that was happening there. Now we have this big proposition in California. And I think it's been a gradual change that I didn't even realize it was happening until you pointed out here that now they're, animal rightists, which I think is a great term, by the way, because it's so hard to say animal rights activists all the time. Animal rightists is way better. That shift to just going after a particular retailer or a restaurant, I think that hits the nail right in the head. That is exactly what's happened. And you mentioned those undercover videos. I remember when I worked at NCBA and we had I was on the issues team, and we prepared for, we were always prepared for like the video of the month, and especially coming up on holidays like Christmas or Easter, we knew there was going to be at Christmas, there was going to be a beef video, and at Easter, there might be a pig one because, they would take the videos and then sit on them for 2 or 3 months or however long it took kind of to build their case. So from that standpoint, I'm really glad that 2 things have happened is that they've moved away from that. And also that I think that a lot of the bad actors have been identified and have been, gotten out of business based on some of that poor behavior and animal handling that we saw. So that's definitely a relief. You were speaking about like transparency. We have nothing to hide. And I think that that's really important. And you kind of address that in your TV show that you have, Doc Talk, which is a massive hit on RFD-TV. Can you tell us more about the show, how it came about, your goal, just tell us about the show for those who either don't watch RFD-TV or don't have it. Maybe they'll subscribe after hearing about your show.
Well, it'd be great. But, it's everything in life. I've just been so blessed and lucky. But I was working as an extension specialist at K-State, and they came downstairs and they said, hey, this TV show, Ag AM in Kansas, wants you to shoot a 5-minute clip on animal welfare. So I went down to the parking lot, windy day, clipped the mic on, talked for 5 minutes. And all of a sudden the guy showed up the next week and said, hey, can you talk about something else for 5 minutes? I'm like, sure. So I did it for 5 minutes. And then they said, hey, we want to dedicate Monday to something in vet med or animal health. And we have 5 days, and Monday we're going to just call it Doc Talk. And I said, okay. So I said, it'd be better if I grabbed a couple of my buddies and we just have a coffee table discussion about a subject. And they're like, can you do that? And I said, sure. So I'd grab Mike Apley or Matt Meisner or Casey Olson or Chris Reinhardt, and we just talk about something. And it was just in Kansas, and we were doing this. And so then they said, hey, we think RFD wants to have this show, and would you be interested in doing it? And so this was 13 years ago. And I said, sure. So we started shooting it, and we would just take our Monday Ag AM in Kansas show and ship it to RFD to start out. And I think they had like 150,000 viewers the first year. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, well, but it was Monday afternoon at 3:30.
That seems like a lot for a Monday in the middle of the day.
Right after Porter Wagner. And so anyway, we started doing the show, and everybody's like, well, how can you come up with that many topics? And I'm like, have you ever seen the Merck manual? I mean, I can come up with so many different topics that it's just, it's easy. And we just have a very down to earth discussion about it. And just to make it so that people who are watching can take complex topics, and we we just cookbook it down as if I'm standing in the barnyard with you, or we're sitting at the kitchen table, and hey, this is what's happening with grass tetany. This is what happens when you're having cows calving, and here's what calf scour is, the new technology. But Anyway, so we did this for 4 or 5 years, and the owners of the show were like, "Hey, we haven't really paid you anything."
You've been doing this for free for 13 years?
I was at K-State, so I wasn't,
Man,
yeah, I didn't.
what are you doing?
Well, and so they said, "You want to be a part owner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got to find out from K-State if I can do that." And so they said, K-State's like, "Sure." And so I became 20% owner. And then since then, we've had a couple of people sell out. So there's 3 of us that own the show. Our headquarters is in Silver Lake, Kansas. And now we have 4 million viewers a week. And now we're on Monday, Friday, and Saturdays. Friday
Oh
and
my
Saturday
gosh.
mornings. And then we probably have 1 or 2 million viewers on our YouTube channel as well. So it's been and then the emails I get from producers and pictures and things that they're doing around the country, and they recommend their veterinarian to be on the show. So we go and try to facilitate that as much as we can. And it's just been a blessing. We're signed up. We're sponsored through 2025. So we'll hit 600 episodes this year of the show, and it's fun. It's been a blessing, and we've kept it as rural as it can be, and we've done it with the goal of helping people stay relevant with practical topics, and bringing world experts into your house.
That is amazing. 4 million viewers, is that what you said?
Yeah, we were at 9 million. Our peak was 9, and it gets a little bit overwhelming and at times, but it's just been a lot of fun, and it's a pretty low budget deal for what we do, but we sure do have fun, and the producers, the most heartfelt thing is the producers enjoy it, and veterinarians enjoy it, and you would be amazed at how many FFA, junior colleges, animal science departments, and vet schools use the archived videos to teach.
Yeah.
I had a young lady come up to me and said, "You were my favorite professor at Middle Tennessee State." And I said, "Well, I didn't teach at Middle Tennessee State." And she goes, "We had your videos every day in our animal science class."
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I mean, I was looking at your Facebook page for Doc Talk earlier, and you have a bunch of followers there too. I mean, this is just great that you've been able to reach that many people. So you look like you're in like a studio when you do these.
Oh, it looks like it.
Because you have the DT behind you. I'm looking at like the most recent one last week. Is this like somewhere? You mean you don't travel to Silver Lake 3 times a week? Are you guys like batch filming these?
No, that is just a pop-up set that comes in a tote that I carry, and I have a bag of cameras with stands. And so I shoot them in churches. I shoot it in people's offices. When I say we're low budget, I mean, my wife, I love her. She's not low budget, all right, but she films them. And so Cindy films them, and I line up the content and host them. And then Heather and Kelly are my partners in the show. They're in Silver Lake, and they do the production. And we have B-roll for 13 years because we go out and do production videos for ranches, for cow-calf operations, for packers, and for NCBA and different groups like that. We have a contract business there. But I upload the 3 camera shots and upload the mics, and then they put together the shows and get them out to RFD.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Although you're coming up on your like 1,000th public speaking event. I know you get paid for that stuff. I can't believe you were doing a show for 13 years and not getting paid. Dr. Dan.
Well, I did after 4 or 5. Okay. So
okay. Well, that's better.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm going to guess that of my public speaking, depending on where it is, that I've probably gotten paid for about 30 or 40% of the gigs.
Oh, Dr.
I know. And when people if the Kansas Farm Bureau calls me up and they said, hey, can you come do the Cherokee County Farm Bureau meeting? I would say yes. And they'd say, what do we owe you? And I say mileage and a meal.
Yeah, you're doing your public service there. That's very kind.
I did. And I honestly, that was my peace of mind, because you're going so hard and you're doing so many things and so many balls in the air. That windshield time to serve people in agriculture, and get there and get to break bread with people that are in our business, and share our joys and concerns and answers to prayers and things like that. That is when I'm the most comfortable, and it's just such a relief. So instead of paying for therapy, you can look at it. I might not got paid, but I
windshield
money on therapy. All right. So
that's right.
I was with my people.
That's good. Those county meetings, there's a lot of takeaways to do from those. I actually spoke. I've spoken at a lot of places. I've done a lot of those county farm bureau meetings. I had never spoken at my home county. I had never spoken in my home county until last fall, and that was the most terrifying experience than any of the other stuff I've done speaking. That was a terrifying experience, was to speak to 30 people or 40 people, how many were there, that I knew and who'd known me my whole life. So, but thank you for doing your community part to keep the fellowship in the beef industry, because that is important and needed. So I know another one of your ventures, you have a ton of them, is production animal consultation. And so you've launched that. I know that that's really big with feedlots, and do a lot of consulting there. Can you tell us more about that? How you determined that there was a need for it, and maybe more about, I know it says consultation in the title, but more about, what you're doing with that.
Yep. So production animal consultation was a group of veterinarians that were getting together informally out in Oakley, Kansas, in the basement of a bank. And we would show up once a quarter to just have a meeting about what we were seeing in practice, maybe issues we were having with labor or, veterinary medicine or helping feedlots. And we were meeting informally. And then, probably 10, 12 years ago, it was decided that 6 of our veterinarians decided to form this production animal consultation, which then became kind of a service center for veterinary feedlot consultants. And we developed, and I was working at it through K-State. And again, I felt like it was my service to help these. And about, I think 6 or 7 years ago, they asked me to come in as an owner and a partner. And again, I made sure that it passed all the conflict of interest sniff tests at K-State before we did it. But so what PAC has is a group of like-minded veterinarians to serve people in the feedlot industry. It's called production animal consultation, but really PAC is about people and cattle. Okay.
I like that. That's good.
And so that's what we do. And we have 4 prong approach to this. One is through education, and we have annual meetings. We have caregiver stockmanship meetings. We have a person that is on horseback, on horsemanship, that he'll come to your yard with a trailer, teach your guys things on tack and how to ride pins and how to treat your horses. We have bilingual specialists that go in and train on processing and hospitals. And then we have our big meeting once a year for all our feed yards. We have 150 feed yards that we serve, about 30% of the fed cattle in the U.S. Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Iowa are sweet spots. And then what we'll do, we have a database service. We have 12 years, 55 million head of feedlot data we use to support our feedlots in making decisions when we consult. And so we can do predictive modeling and things to that nature, but we really try to be data-driven, data and relationship-driven. It's not just transactional. And then we have a research wing where we have people, DVM, PhDs. We have 4 of us in the company that we do research within people's operations to get answers to issues. And then we also do a lot of contract research for pharmaceutical companies, new product development, things of that nature in real world settings. But our baseline is, and our bread and butter are boots on the ground in feed yards every day, consulting, working with feedlot operators, working with processing crews, working with doctors, working with feed delivery. And so we have 12 veterinarians that work in feed yards. We have 47 veterinary clinics across the Western U.S. that do cow-calf production medicine that are also part of this. And so at the end of the day, we touch about 3 million head of cattle on feed and 1 million pairs of cows and 600,000 stockers. And this is all about bringing a great service, relationship, trust, and a service to improvement of cattle health, performance, and production through the use of data and research.
I think that you said a word there that's so important, and that's trust. And that's not just, trust plays such a huge role in every part of our lives. Like, whether we want consumers and grocery shoppers to trust us as veterinarians, as ranchers, as academia, whether we want our fellow producers to trust us when you're teaching a course or when you're consulting. I think trust it's not underappreciated. I just don't think it gets the attention that it probably deserves, because it takes a lot of work to build trust, and then to retain it and keep it going. That goes along with transparency and things of that nature. And so that's really important. And how long have you been, remind us again, how long have you been with the people and cattle? But I like that title a lot, but production animal consultation.
I've been practicing with them for 7 years. And, before that I was doing it as a consultant for them. And now I'm back in feed yards. I've worked with yards down Southwest Kansas and Ingalls and Cimarron and Dodge City. And then I have yards up here in Iowa and eastern Nebraska that I work with. So right now we have a house in Kansas, we have a house in Iowa, and it's been great. And the trust thing is that our feed yards know that we're going to make the best decision for them and their cattle, and we build that trust through day-to-day actions and interactions. And trust is not something that you walk in and immediately everybody's like, well, I just trust it. It takes so many little itty-bitty interactions and discussions until you get to the point where, okay, we're going to have the really hard discussions. You don't start out with those. You build up to a point where you can have those. And so we have hard discussions on people within the operation, leadership within the operation. Gary Gentry used to say to me, he was a manager at Lubbock County Feed Yard, and he'd say the 3 most inconsistent things in the world are cattle, weather, and people. And those are the 3 things that we constantly are working with, trying to make sure that, and the other thing is we have to be okay to just row the boat and pound the rock. We get to do some fun things but at the end of the day, going to the feed yards, being in the feed yards, feeding cattle, getting a new group in, shipping a finished group out, row the boat, keep doing this that consistently brings the cash flow in, and understanding that it's not glamorous, but it's what we do. While always searching to do something a little bit better for health or for performance or food safety or antibiotic usage, all that wrapped into one is what we're trying to do through PAC.
That's so. I think that's really interesting. You're talking about that, and outside of the beef industry, we talk about, and you've heard this, like you got to feed the cows. Your daily stuff. That's literally what the daily stuff on a feed yard is, getting the cattle fed, but it's those little things that take a little bit more extra effort to devote time or education to, or finding a way to improve. And that can really add up and take it to the next level. And I'm assuming that the clients that you have at the different feed yards are the kind of people in operations that are taking those steps because they want to be successful. They want to be leaders. They want to do the right thing to keep, moving ahead and on that forward path.
Yeah, there's so many times that my clients teach me, and there's so many times that our job is to absorb it all, is to watch ingenuity, and we get to work with the best of the best. And so, as we take on new clients, we're looking for people that want to go on that journey with us, that share core values of trust, integrity, looking to get better, and really want to be in the beef business, right? And so when we start to talk about sustainability, it's not about saving the planet. It's about figuring out what we can do together to keep the industry moving forward and keeping people and families and heritage and that in business. And so that's what we're focused on. And we've taken on quite a few new clients this year. And it just continues to grow. And it's a culture that we built around faith. And we're not apologetic about that. Matter of fact, we're proud of it, and we'll continue to do that because we're a faith-based industry.
That's very true. That is absolutely true. Speaking of teaching, you said that your clients have taught you a lot and that they teach you things. And obviously you have this very long career and success in teaching and working with students and things. And so now you know this, and I tell people this a lot, but our listeners don't know this. And so you basically launched my career in the beef industry. You opened the door for me so that I could get in the door and get started. And had you not done that for me, I would not be sitting here talking to you like this today. And I cannot imagine, first off, I owe you a tremendous thank you for that. And I will always be very grateful to you for giving me that first step. But I know that I am not the only person that you have opened doors for and have had a great impact on. And so my question for you is, what has working with students and in academia over the past 20 years, like, what has that meant to you? I know what you and your influence has meant to me. What has working with students meant to you?
Well, it's everything. If you're going to be at a university and you don't want to be around students, then you need to find a different job.
I agree with you. I love that you're just always very direct. That's one of my favorite things. So anyway,
I mean, there are USDA experiment stations for people that don't want to, okay. I guess the thing, and I don't, I'm just so humbled by your words, because you took it off. You took off like crazy and all that you've done. And I'm just so proud of you and thankful, because at the end of the day, a lot of people took chances on me. People opened doors and said, yeah. And I'm like, you're really going to let me do this? And I've always had that mentality of students are not tomorrow's leaders. We have 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids driving $50 million tanks, right? They can probably run a beef center, or they can run a, whatever. So my job was to create opportunity, get resources, and empower students to make the decisions themselves and take off with a safety net behind them, right? That gives you confidence. And I could be that safety net. And so the students and the stakeholders, I keep saying that, but the two most important groups of people for universities to listen to are your students and the people out in the trenches that you support. And if you take care of those two groups, you'll never have to worry about enrollment. You'll never have to worry about research dollars. You'll never have to worry about extension being supported, because you're doing your job. And if you have a passion for people, which I do, people is the business, right? And it is about, if you came to me and said, I have a flat tire, I'm stuck in Holton, Kansas, can you help me? I would drop what I'm doing and I would get my pickup and I would go help you. Or I would call somebody that would get there sooner, right? Um, but it's about serving others and not serving yourself. And you can be, and so that's the whole purpose. And that's, of anything in academia. Yeah, we go through theory. We talk about things you can't learn in a book. But it's about the things we can provide outside of the classroom that truly are the educational and inspirational opportunities for the students. And that's what drove me. I loved to be in the classroom, and that was fun. And I loved getting to meet the students. And then the ones that had a passion, they'd show up at your office and say, kind of like to do something like that. And I'm like, okay. I've never had a student come in and say, I want to work for you. And I said, no. I've never had anybody ask for a day off that's worked for me and said no. Because the people that you work with and the people that the like-minded people that come to work, they're doing their job. They need a break. That they're going to be great. And so it's been a luxury to be able to do that. But it's so humbling. And it's a delayed gratification I can't explain. But I didn't really do that much besides say, oh, here's the keys, drive it.
Somebody has to open the door. I mean, we talk, the late and revered Dr. Barry Flinchbaugh always talked about there are kings and there are king makers. And I'm not saying that I am a king. That's not what I'm getting at. But you are definitely a king maker. You have been there to elevate and provide a pathway for countless number of students and veterinary students and stakeholders. And, we all owe you a great debt of gratitude. I talk and write for a living. Can you tell? I can't even get the word gratitude out.
Yeah, but when you mentioned Barry Flinchbaugh, and then I immediately think of Dan Upson and those were my mentors and as a faculty member, right? I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. I see how people need it, what they're doing, and how it really elevates our students in our university, because you're only as good as your students. The university is only as good as its stakeholders and students. And you guys, when you guys came through, I brag on your group, but that's like having the Final Four championship team of students. When you guys came through, was a different level, and I was very, very blessed. Y'all provided me such a rich experience in academia that was fun.
Well, that seems true to your form. We're talking about you, and you've flipped it around and made it kind words about other people. So thank you. I don't feel like I warrant those, but thank you. You're right. It was a very special, very cool group of people that we that got to work with when we were kind of in the trenches there. You're talking about students that are coming in and taking the initiative and wanting to work with you or wanting to explore new areas. What advice do you have for students that are, that maybe they want to make a difference, that they want to level up, not just veterinary students, but, undergraduate students. I was a master's student, I think, when I, first got to working with you. What can you offer those students as advice?
Yeah, the network. It seems like a cliche, but go to the extra meetings that people that do what you want to do for a living are at, because it is a small group. And once you get in it and get to learning the people and things of that nature, that learn as much as you possibly can every day. It's a relief, right? You're so worried about knowing everything or telling people that you know everything that you need to take the pressure off, because I'm still learning every day. And there comes a point in time and a balance when it's okay, that you accept that. But the sooner you accept that, the more fun it is, because now it's like, it's just about learning. It's not about just closing the deal or getting the job or getting that grade or things like that. It really is about enjoying the process. Because the worst day for me when I was a student was graduation. Yeah, because I'm like, now what? And so and you always feel that way at the end of a job or the end of a game or the end of a class. It's like, wow, now it's over. And so enjoying getting from point A to point B is something that I'd say work with good people. And then the other one that I harp on our students every time is the triad of physical, mental, and spiritual health. And if you can go jog for 30 minutes a day, you can crack open the good book for 10 minutes. And so maintaining that balance, network, learn as much as you can, and kind of be holistic in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. Practice it, because just like running a marathon, the mental and spiritual health thing takes building blocks to get to a different level, but it will serve you in your career in handling people and handling situations and handling putting priorities and being able to handle with humility rather than something that you don't want to be remembered for.
It's so interesting. You said the networking and then the triad there. On the networking, I remember thinking like that is every undergraduate student has heard network, how important that is. And I always think like it feels so cliche because people ask, what's your piece of advice? And a lot of times people say networking and I think, oh man, is that really valuable? But it is. It's not so much meet people so they can do something for you. It's just get out and talk to people because you will learn more things. Networking is sadly, that was why I left the Beef Cattle Institute, is because the person who interviewed me for my job at NCBA was also one of my references. So my advice is if you can ever be interviewed by a reference, do that. That helps a lot. But yeah, had I not networked, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have this career. I wouldn't have this relationship, this, friendship with you and all these other people. And it's not about meeting people so they can do something for you. Like as we meet people and are exposed to more, diverse groups of people, diverse thought processes, like that enriches our lives. It fulfills us. It's that's why we're here. That's why God put us on this earth, is so that we could, meet people and have fulfilling lives. And then, the triangle, the triad there at the end, the physical, spiritual, mental health. I think, sadly, I feel like people don't give that spiritual, mental part as much attention as it probably needs, but it can be draining, and people need a way to, we all need a way to de-stress, maybe isn't the right word.
The other thing I tell the students is get over yourself. Because you're not the most important person in the world. And I if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, the question that they'd ask at Iowa State was, did somebody get his keys? Right? They're going to, your family's going to get over it, right? You want them to. And so having that in your brain of work hard, be humble, prioritize, what is going to happen is all of it is just so important as you go through it, because it doesn't mean you don't work hard. It means you put it in perspective, and not everything's a crisis. And so those are just some things that I love the students and doing talks on career risk management and things like that with them, because it's so fun to watch them when they say, yeah, kind of get over yourself. The president of the United States got hit by a bus, which we are not condoning. Just think of how fast we'd swear in the next person.
Yeah. That day.
And how little would probably change in your life.
Yeah. As morbid as that sounds, yes, you're not wrong in that respect. And that's a whole, that was just I hope that people are listening up, because that is a lot of really great advice. And I was very fortunate and privileged to be able to work with you one-on-one and have known you for many years now. And I hope that there are a lot of people listening to this that are jealous and wish that they could get to know you. But so these last questions, we ask these of everybody, and I used to call them rapid fire, but they're not like fast. So I'm just going to call them wrap up questions or exit questions, whatever. I need to brand them in different ways. I didn't do a good job of that. But so the first one is, what is your favorite beef related book or resource? It doesn't have to be a textbook, but
Well, I mean, my favorite beef related book is The Last Cattle Drive. That is a fiction book about the last cattle drive in Kansas, from Gorham to the Kansas City Stockyards. It's cool. That's a cool book. It's a fun book. And but for me, on just go-to books, probably going to say the Beef NRC.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm looking up requirements and that, but I use that one, or the BQA manual are a lot of times the ones that I am digging in. And now with the internet, maybe my favorite beef sites, the University of Nebraska's beef and the Iowa Beef Center both have tremendous website materials. So that, I guess they're not books, but they would be things that I use routinely.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've asked this question several times. I've never heard The Last Cattle Drive, so I wrote that book down so that I can look it up. So what is a book that's not related to cows or the beef industry that you're currently reading, or one that you really like? No ego.
I brought it with me. This thing is pretty good. I've just gotten in the middle of it. And the book is called No Ego, and it's how leaders can cut the cost of workplace drama and end entitlement. And it's a short read. It's a very easy read, and it's just talking about how much time we spend day to day in businesses dealing with drama, and how much it actually costs our society and costs your business. But more importantly, it's just emotionally draining. And and that's one of the things I've had to really work on, is removing emotion and trying to help remove turmoil in workplaces, because especially in academia, because there's just no reprimand, or everybody can just kind of fire off. And so trying to turn it around, instead of open door policies to hear people jockey for position and position themselves, or put somebody else down, really taking the conversations to, okay, if you're king for a day, or queen for a day, how does it look great? And then we start talking about solutions rather than problems. So, and I'm always looking for ways to get better at being a better person and spouse or whatever. So I still got a lot of work to do, Brandy. You've been very kind to me, but it's about being a better version of yourself tomorrow.
I think that's really admirable. So many people think this is the way I am, and y'all just deal with it. And I think that's really admirable, to try to get to better ourselves. There's a commercial, and it's a Noble commercial. It's been during the draft. I think regular listeners know that I am a massive NFL fan. And so the Noble commercial has Deuce Vaughn, and he's talking about how he wants to get 1% better every day. And he's obviously talking about football, but I think, you hit the nail there on the head, that we should all be trying to get better, because, none of us are perfect. We can strive for that, but we're not perfect. And if we can work to get better a little bit every day, we can not only improve our lives, but improve those around us.
The better that you are for yourself, the better you are for others. And
Quote.
Yeah, well, it's true. And I haven't handled everything correctly. There's times when you look back in your career, or with your family, or with your community, and it always comes back to selfishness or worldly things that get in the way. And if you can understand there's enough to go around and everybody's going to get their fair share or more, then you can start to internalize it. But that's really some of the things that we're working on. But everybody thinks that, that everybody has the perfect life. And I think Facebook kind of does some of that, right? You're either on there about something tragic or something great. And it's not just about waking up every morning and pounding the rock. And how boring it's going to be, and how we're going to have so many little interactions during the day of building trust and providing character and leadership, that those are the true marks.
I think that, again, that's just a huge sign of growth when we can look back and realize that, hey, maybe I could have handled that better, and then learning from that. That's a sign of growth. And so I appreciate you. It's not what I thought we were going to talk about today, but I'm glad that you brought it up and talked about it.
You bet.
Okay. And so this last exit question is, what trait do you find admirable in others that has helped them reach success?
The number one is just selflessness. It's putting others first. Love, care, integrity, core values. But selflessness is number one. Not asking what can others do for you, but asking what can I do to help you, and just being there, being present.
I can't. We're just getting very feely today, and I have loved it. I loved it. This was great. I'm like nodding. The audience can't see me, but I'm nodding my head in agreement. And I just think that outside of what career we're in, that should be our goal. And I appreciate you bringing that up and being so personable and open about it. I can't think of a more like heartwarming, kind way to end the show for the day. So that is all we have today. That is all we have for today. Thank you so much for talking with us. I appreciate you donating your time to talking to us on the show, for your wisdom, for your guidance, for your mentorship, and then everything that you've done for the beef industry is not unnoticed and is not unappreciated. If people want to find you on social media or the show, Doc Talk or anything like that, where can they go do that? This is your chance to plug it all.
Yeah, well, we have a website for Doc Talk. It's www.doctalktv.com. And then from there, emails can go in and they flow to me. And then, my email is thomsondvm@gmail.com for the PAC or production animal consultation inquiries, or if you have speaking interests in people for speaking or things of that nature.
We will. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And we will make sure to put those things in the show notes. So those of you listening on your mobile devices or on the desktop version can scroll to see that. So
just remember, there's no P in Thomson. That's what everybody. That's right. It's the Scottish version and a Scottish Irish version instead of the English. But anyway, thanks, Brandy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. And he said, it is Dr. Thomson. That's Thomson. There is no P. So if you're trying to do a Google search for him, make sure you pull that extra consonant out. So, well, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you all to listening, and we will see you next week on the Beef Podcast.